and for reminding them how much you care. Mornings are not for making beds.
Midwest. Welcome back to our continuing coverage of this major storm that is now winding down across the Midwest and Northeast. Still some lingering snow, but this was Chicago's Lakeshore Drive. Last night shut down. Hundreds of drivers were stranded in the snow as an accident caused a major delay there. Plenty of activity on the street this morning. Firefighters and paramedics were on scene early this morning after receiving dozens of 911 calls from stranded motorists. Right now, officials say the street is all clear of drivers. Crews are digging out and towing away cars that have been left behind.
And talk about historic. The storm continues to work its magic here. It is moving across the Northeast. We've got live team coverage from Oklahoma to the New England coast, and Day Planner rolls on.
And welcome back to Day Planner. What a historic storm for folks in the Midwest. 20 inches of snow officially in Chicago. That's the third greatest snowfall of all time. And of course, it came with 70-mile-an-hour wind on the high end, blowing that snow around, making it extremely difficult to get around yesterday.
Well, and amazing when you think only 3 storms in Chicago history have reached the 20-inch mark. This one did exactly that. And also with this storm, there was severe icing in some areas, and that shut down major interstates and also brought traffic to a standstill.
Well, Storm Tracker Jim Cantori kicking off our live team coverage this half hour, reporting live from Chicago today. And Jim, how about that night last night? Thunder, snow, and 70-mile-an-hour wind.
Epic. Absolutely epic. And by the way, guys, I was here for 2 of the top 3 storms. I was here for 99 and also the one we just had, obviously, last night. So how about that? Check it out, Carl and Heather. The snow is deep and not playable right now. I mean, this is phenomenal. This is what you want to do when you're a kid and you get a big dump like this. You want to get out and play in it. So, permit me to do that. You can see the sun is actually starting to come back out here. The worst is obviously over for the Chicago area. You mentioned we're in the top 3 area. The old pill, always nice to see that. I'll tell you that right now. But there's a lot of cleanup. But I'm telling you, these guys are obsessed. They're obsessed with getting the walkways clean. And now look at this. It's almost like, could you imagine we had 20 inches of snow out here? Absolutely not. No way. All right, let me take you back to last night. My producer and I actually went down to, I think, Delaware Avenue, and we got to feel the Venturi effect, which is basically taking an amount of mass and pushing it through a smaller area. And to do that, it has to go through at a much faster speed. So look at this. I could literally lean into the wind and it held me up. I mean, it was like being on the beach during a tropical storm, a strong tropical storm at that, with the winds. They were easily gusting 60, maybe even 70 through those buildings. And what was the most amazing is you didn't need to shovel that street. It pretty much was wiped clean. Compliments of the tremendous wind there. All right, guys, what's going on? Again, the storm pulls away. The winds shift a little bit because we've only had lake effect this morning. The storm's long gone. It's affecting the Northeast, as you've been telling about. But right now, it's northern Indiana that's getting the worst of this storm. And again, just a few flakes from time to time here in Chicago. So I think we're pretty much done at this point in time. And as you mentioned, top 3 storm. And I got to say, out of all the storms I've ever covered for snow, this was probably top 3 myself, quite frankly. So Superstorm 93 definitely ranks first, and this one right there at number 2. Back to you guys.
All right, thank you so much. And of course, it was in 99 that there were 40 people killed after the event. And that was heart attacks,
snow,
right?
yes,
Shoveling
exactly.
snow.
You really got to be careful.
Yeah, the danger can come in much after the storm moves through.
No doubt about that. I want to take you now to the Northeast and up into Greenwich, Connecticut. That's where Adam Berg is. And Adam, it's been an ice storm there largely.
Largely an ice storm, absolutely. Most of the heavy-duty shoveling, like you guys were just talking about, those were some of the previous storms, like the one about a week and a half ago that dumped about 1.5 feet of snow across the New York City area right into Greenwich, Connecticut. But yeah, today it was basically an ice storm. When we started off, it was an ice rink out here. You couldn't walk on the sidewalks. So incredibly slippery. The trees here full of ice, had about 1/4 to 1/2 inch of ice on some of these trees. The great news, though, is it warmed up above freezing before some of these tree limbs actually fell down, which is awesome, because if the ice stays on those tree limbs, and especially if it can get to 1/2 inch or greater, just like some of this video we shot a little earlier when we got here, look at some of the ice in that tree. Unbelievable stuff. So it had that ice not melted, eventually those tree limbs fatigue. They can't hold up for long. Those tree limbs can then fall on power lines, and you get the idea, right? You get that domino effect. You get the power outages. Plus, about a ½ inch of ice or more on power lines can actually bring the power line down directly. So we were right at that threshold. So it looks like we dodged the big one here, no doubt about it. Still a little bit of ice lingering, but with temperatures above freezing, looks like we are pretty much good to go at this point. But I know the buzz is already out there, Heather and Carl, talking about the next storm here. Mother Nature relentless this winter, not giving us too many days to thaw out at all.
All right, thanks, Adam. And yes, Mother Nature keeps going. And as we are taking a look, we've got more to come.
Finding now what? Welcome back to our coverage of this major storm now winding down across the Midwest, but the damage has been done. There you see Oklahoma City covered in snow. It's been a foot of snow there. It is still very cold. Temperatures in the single numbers. Wind chills are well below zero, in the order of teens below zero. And so that snow's not going anywhere by itself. It's going to have to be plowed out of the way, and that's going to be quite a job there, as of course we don't have a whole lot of snow removal equipment there in the Central Plains. Well, we continue to track this storm as it moves out into the Northeast. We've gotten some very heavy snow in parts of New England. It has mostly been an ice storm for a lot of that 95 corridor. And let's go over to Scott Williams now. He's at King of Prussia Mall in Pennsylvania. And Scott, things looking pretty good on the roads this afternoon.
Absolutely. Good afternoon, Carl. Much improved here around the greater Philadelphia area after about a ½ inch of ice accumulated on top of the snow on the ground and also on several of the bridges, the overpasses, and the trees. But take a look at the trees behind me in the distance. Pretty bone dry right now. Most of the ice that accumulated this morning has melted. Temperatures have risen into the upper 30s around the region, but we are dealing with reduced visibilities. Now, for a time, I needed the ice scraper. I needed the umbrella for the heavy freezing rain, and also the shovel just to maneuver here with all of the snow still on the ground. Round after round, the Philadelphia area has been dealing with snow this season. It looks like another potential storm is on the way as we move into Friday and Saturday, but ice accumulations here in Philadelphia, a ½ of an inch or less, but north and west into the suburbs, the Lehigh Valley, the Poconos, that is where we saw significant icing. PECO is reporting about 80,000 customers without power. Of course, Amtrak was closed for a time earlier today between Philadelphia and New York City. That resumed, and we are looking at some cancellations and delays at the airport, but nonetheless, it looks much improved here around the greater Philadelphia area. Back to you, Carl.
Thank you so much. Good to see that things are doing pretty well there. Again, our big storm is now lifting out and across into the Northeast, and we're going to talk more about that coming up in a moment. Heather?
All right, thank you, Carl. Well, we're going to take you now into St. Peters, Missouri, and that's where Mike Seidel has been enduring this storm. And, you know, Mike, as far as the temperatures, that's my big concern. Right now, not too bad. It's in the single digits, but tonight, well below zero for those wind chill values.
Yeah, right now we're at 20 here outside of St. Louis and St. Peters, about 30 miles west of town. Kansas City right now checking just around 10. So you're talking about highs that are running 20 to 30 degrees below typical numbers, which should be somewhere in the upper 30s to near 40. Tonight we drop below zero, and the wind chills correspondingly will drop. Wind chill right now in KC is 8 below zero, and by tomorrow morning we'll see wind chills in parts of northwest Missouri at least 15 below zero, so we have wind chill advisories out. One town that was hit hard, Springfield. Let me show you the front page of the Springfield News Ledger. What a great newspaper, huh? When you're in Springfield, pick it up. Look at the headline. Shut down. Wild weather brings closures. And this is what you hate to see. You got to dig your car out, but this guy's digging out a truck. Talk about some serious work and elbow grease, and you'll feel that the next day. Even if you're in good shape, shoveling snow is a real workout. As far as it goes here, we've got a few snow showers, but look at the temp trend here in St. Louis. It is going to be very, very cold. Next couple of mornings, tomorrow morning, we're going down to 3 below zero. By the way, the record is 10 below zero. So as cold as it is, It's not unprecedented. Highs tomorrow around 20. Now, as we get into the weekend, we'll start to see things moderate back close to average, which is 40 in St. Louis. We're talking highs 35 to 40. There may be a few snow showers as we get into the latter part of the week, but nothing like this. By the way, St. Louis only had 3 inches of snow and sleet. We missed it. We got dry slotted, plus the low came so close to us that we stayed warm aloft, and we had a lot of sleet instead of snow. So I think most of the locals I've talked to are more than happy that we only had 3 inches of snow and sleet.
Oh,
Heather, back to you.
All right, thanks so much, Mike. We'll check back in with you a little bit later. Now back to Carl.
All right, and we are your winter weather authority. You can check online and, of course, on air for the very latest forecast. And we've got a new storm on the way. We'll tell you about that coming up. Welcome back to our coverage of a major winter storm that is now exiting the Northeast. We've still got some heavy snow coming down in Maine, a lot of light snow there from the eastern lakes and down to the Ohio Valley. Snow is really winding down in Chicago, but it did produce 20 inches of snow there in Chicago, so that is the 3rd greatest snowstorm on record. An amazing storm. Well, the sister cities of Dallas and Fort Worth trying to gear up for the Super Bowl, but they've got some cleaning up to do after a major snow and ice storm. NBC News correspondent Janet Shamlian joins us live from Dallas with a look at how the city is recovering. And Janet, of course, you and I used to work together. Great to see you again, and it looks like it's kind of a mess there.
Hey, Carl, absolutely. I mean, be glad you're not in Texas right now. This is ridiculous for Texas. It's 16 degrees here right now, and there is a layer of ice surrounding the Cowboys Stadium. Let me show you what it's like. This is what you have to travel on if you're going to get anywhere in Texas right now, because while the snow has moved out, we are still left with the ice and bitter cold, and it comes just as tens of thousands of football fans are trying to get into town. Love Field is still a mess in terms of flights getting in and out. They've canceled hundreds of them. The roads are still a problem as much as they've tried to sand and salt them. Schools have been called off for a second day here in both Dallas and Fort Worth. We've got 45,000 people who have lost electricity and now rolling blackouts to try to ease some of the demand on electricity, not just here in Dallas, but throughout the state, down in Houston as well. This is not what the Chamber of Commerce had predicted for Super Bowl weekend, but they are dealing with it the best they can. It's going to stay cold for a couple more days. And Carl, I'm hearing snow in Houston on Friday. So Texas is definitely taking a wallop from this storm. Maybe you can update us on that, but it is just crazy here with so many people trying to get around right now for the Super Bowl.
That cold's not going anywhere anytime soon, and we're going to get, most likely another storm there in southeast Texas. Janet, thank you so much. Let's take a quick look at what's going on with the storm right now and where it's going to be headed. Again, it's moving out towards the north and east. We've still got a lot of snow coming down there in northeast Maine, but that big storm really shearing out, as we say, kind of stretching out. And so we're just getting some lingering light snow there around the eastern lakes, in particular the Ohio Valley. There's your heavier snow in Maine, but that will be winding down over the next few hours. Now, looking ahead to what Janet was just talking about, here is the storm that we're watching, this developing area of low pressure. There's still going to be a lot of cold in place in the southern plains, and so as that moves up, it's going to throw moisture back and over top of that cold air. That is most likely going to set up a serious ice storm in parts of Louisiana and Mississippi, and again, possibly reaching back into the Houston area. So this is going to be very messy indeed for some areas that typically do not get much of that kind of weather. There's a look at your ice potential. Notice right there along I-10 and towards 49, Baton Rouge, and then getting up towards Meridian, Mississippi as well. We could be talking about significant icing potentially. This could be huge here in the next couple of days. That again developing tomorrow going into Friday. Then after that, that storm will lift up into the East Coast and we'll find snow across interior parts of the Northeast. Heather?
Well, and Carl, you know, what do you need to get some of that icing? You need some very cold air, and we've got a lot of that in place across the country. So not only are the temperatures bad, but you factor the winds in, and it really gives us some dangerous wind chill values. Check it out here. Bismarck 19 below, Minneapolis 11 below, Rapid City also below zero, same with Kansas City. So it is going to be brutal in a lot of these areas today. You look ahead to tomorrow. Again, this is the wind chill forecast for us, and it's going to be extremely rough with a lot of these wind chill values in the midsection of the country running below zero, from Chicago to Minneapolis to Kansas City into St. Louis. Now, as we look at some of the bitterly cold temperatures, we can see some of the actual numbers for today. Take you first to Denver, where that 5, the high temperature of 5, well, that is 40 below your average. So more typical this time of the year would be 45. Amarillo, you can see that 9, that is 42 below your average. That cold air continues to extend southward as we go into Thursday. That cold air filling in across Texas and also into Louisiana. St. Louis, very chilly numbers for you, and that is going to continue as we work our way into Friday, with temperatures here across the south running anywhere from, say, 15 to 25 degrees below average. And Carl, as if this isn't bad enough, we'll get a little bit of a rebound as we go into the end of this week, but the next week another cold burst comes down.
Yeah, it really does look like that. I want to show you a computer model forecast. This is the GFS model, and it does tend to have a cold bias, so we do often see more cold on this model than actually will happen. But what it's showing you is another big cold plunge. This is going into Wednesday and Thursday and Friday of next week, dropping down through much of the mid-south there in the southeast. It's going to be a mess.
This is your captain.
The Weather Channel, the Winter Weather Authority.
Right now on Day Planner, continuing coverage of an historic winter storm that dumped epic amounts of snow and ice across the Midwest, shutting down interstates, snarling traffic across many states. Now the Northeast getting the tail end of that storm.
From Oklahoma City to New England, we have live crews that are standing by to give you the very latest. Day Planner starts right now.
And we want to show you some eyewitness pictures from Lakeshore Drive last night. You can see the cars that were stuck on Lakeshore Drive. This actually happened late yesterday, continued into early today. And they got dozens of 911 calls as folks were stuck there for many hours in this blizzard. A terrible scene there on Lakeshore Drive, but fortunately no one has been hurt or has had any serious problem there. They were all rescued at one point or another.
And of course, in Chicago, we picked up more than 20 inches of snow. Now, this is only the third time that we have had a snowstorm in record history here that has dropped more than 20 inches of snow.
Just an incredible storm there in Chicago and through a lot of the plains. Good Wednesday to you. Thanks for joining us for this extended edition of Day Planner. I'm Carl Parker.
And I'm Heather Tash, and we continue to follow this system as it winds up in the Northeast.
Yeah, you can see the storm now really lifting out and shearing out, or stretching out, as we say, across the lakes in the Northeast there. So the bulk of the damage has been done. There's going to be some lingering light snow across parts of the lakes, heavier snow now in Maine, and then things really settling down for the most part in the east. There's a look at your 48-hour snowfall forecast. Still some heavier snow again in New England, but mostly it's going to be on the order of 2 to 4 inches.
And while snow has been a really big problem in a lot of areas, now we turn to the cold. And in Chicago, that is something that's definitely settling in across the area. The fire department, too, the streets, the sanitation workers, they have also been rescuing hundreds of people from their cars. And again, they've been stranded there, some of those on Lakeshore Drive this morning.
And we want to bring in Jim Cantori, who's reporting live there in the Windy City. And Jim, what an incredible storm. I mean, you just don't see very many of these, even when you go to storms all the time. And welcome back to our continuing coverage of a major storm across the Midwest and Northeast. 20 inches of snow in Chicago, 14 inches in Tulsa. That is a new record. And we got all kinds of wind along with the storm. But the storm is now rapidly moving out towards the Northeast. In its wake, just very cold and still pretty windy for a lot of the country. That's right. And now the next big fear is not so much the snow. They're trying to clear that away in Chicago, but the cold. And meteorologist Jim Cantori is here in Chicago. And Jim, I know it's cold now, but it's going to get a lot worse as we go into tonight.
You know what, Heather? The sun's coming out. That means the skies are clearing. We're losing our blanket. We're losing our blanket. So as we get the radiation during the day, re-radiating back out at night, the temperature's going to drop like a rock. So we're going to be in the single digits by the time tomorrow morning rolls around. And of course, for folks that have lost power, which are in the 55,000 range at this point, says ComEd, and they've got 300 trucks on the deal, that's not a good thing. All right, because this may be a couple of day outage, possibly even longer from what we're hearing. So obviously, hopefully those folks will take refuge with friends and family. Again, the sun is really amazing. I mean, you get a little salt, just a little bit of sun even this time of the year. Believe it or not, we're starting to see some nice improvements here on the roads, guys. But I can't help but think back to last night, especially between about 8 and 12 o'clock. Or 8 and 10 o'clock, I should say, about 2 hours where we had constant thunder and lightning. It was unbelievable. As a matter of fact, there was a point last night where Bettis came by with some hot chocolate. We were off camera talking. And you know what? Let's just take you back there. Watch this. Well, I heard it was a bus spin out plus cars are oh! Listen to that! Son of a... That's unbelievable! Well, thank goodness we were off camera when that happened. I didn't add anything to son of a. But you know where I was going with that. No, I mean, it was just one of those things. You totally caught you off guard, guys. But being a meteorologist, that's the third time I've seen it now, and it never gets old. It never gets old, Carl and Heather, ever. Back to you. Yeah, I agree with you, Jim. I've seen it myself, and it's amazing. There's this bright, diffuse flash. It's like a flash of a camera going off because it's being reflected by all the snow. It's amazing. Good stuff, Jim. Thank you. And the thunder was so loud, I couldn't believe it.
I'll have to live vicariously through Jim because I've never actually experienced it, but it's pretty amazing. Yeah, well, you sure about that? You were in the superstorm in Harrisburg, weren't you? I was, but we were down in the dungeon in the basement. Yes. There you go. Mm-hmm. We also want to take you now into Philadelphia and check in with Scott Williams, see what he's doing there at King of Prussia. And Scott, things looking pretty good right now. Oh. And sorry, we want to talk to Scott Newell there in Boston. And hey, Scott, sorry about that. We've got two Scotts here. And you're looking at a pretty serious freeze later tonight.
Yeah, I'm checking my watch here because in about an hour, what's going to happen is the temperature is going to go from this balmy mid-30s down to about, I guess, the mid-20s or so. Now, that doesn't sound all that bad compared to what they're having in the Midwest, but what's going to happen is all this rain that has fallen today, which started, earlier in the morning here, all that, I think, is going to freeze, and they're predicting a really nasty rush hour commute going home. That is not a good thing at all. Now, they're expecting that to start anywhere from 3 to 4 o'clock here in Boston and in the North Shore, and then in southeastern Massachusetts and the South Shore, it should come about an hour after that. All around town here in Boston, by the way, today, what they've really been dealing with is, again, shoveling more snow because about 10 inches, 9 to 10 inches fell in the last 24 hours or so. And you've got to mix all that with all the rain and the slush and the slop, and people have had to kind of make their way through it. A lot of people didn't come to work here today, so there weren't as many people as you would have expected. So we'll, again, check the clock here in about an hour. We'll see how cold it gets, and we'll check in then.
All right. Thank you so much, Scott, in Boston. We appreciate it. And we will check back with you in a little while. We'll be back.
We got a flood. Here's where the
this is those moments where you try to look back at what Daly said beforehand. It feels like, oh, it's just some snow, and then you see this, like black, even firefighters coming by and being like, I have nothing to tell you, I have no updates for you, or so it's disheartening. It's disheartening that situations like this can't even be resolved in a timely manner.
All right, even after Chicago's Lakeshore Drive was closed last night, hundreds of drivers were trapped on the street until the early morning hours. Caught in a blizzard, there was an accident, and then hundreds of drivers were caught behind that accident. And just a huge concern here. Officials were out there going from car to car, trying to find those people. Obviously, you'd like for the people not to have been out there in the first place, but it came up pretty quickly. Things really developed in the afternoon as people were trying to get home, and then once they got stuck, they were not able to get out of there. And fortunately, no one was hurt in that situation. But boy, that is scary, and a reminder about why you need to be in position when a storm moves in. Here's an eyewitness photo of that same scene. That's Lakeshore Drive, and you see those huge drifts there. Look at them all the way up to the sides of cars. I mean, it wasn't just the snow. I mean, 20 inches of snow, that's huge in and of itself, but on top of that, we had 70-mile-an-hour wind there in Chicago, and that obviously is going to blow that snow up into 3, 4, 5-foot drifts, and that's why people were absolutely stuck in that situation. But fortunately, the city of Chicago responding quickly and out there and ready to help those people. But what a storm there across the Northeast. We also had ice in many areas. Indianapolis getting hit hard with an ice storm. We saw that coming into Chicago today. Quickly want to show you what some of the ice impacts are. It's a nuisance at 1/4 of an inch. When you get up to 1/2 an inch, that's when tree limbs sag or break, and you get power outages. That is disruptive. And then when you get up to an inch of snow, you're talking about 1/2 inch plus there and towards an inch, you're talking about a crippling ice storm, widespread tree and power line damage. And speaking of tree and power line damage, we've seen that in Southern California today, but for an entirely different reason. The Santa Anas have been howling. Look at that. Winds could gust to 80 miles an hour. There's the high wind warning across the LA basin there, right down into San Diego County as well. We've gotten gusts of 60 in San Diego County, Orange County around Anaheim, traffic signs and poles blown down, San Bernardino County semi blown over on the 15. So a very scary time there, and with more big high pressures building into the west in the coming days, we may see more of that. So let's get a look at the forecast going forward. We've got more storms on the way. Here's Heather with more on that.
Yeah, Carl, some people may not want to look because, yes, we've got more on the horizon. It already has been quite the winter season. Now we're going to pile on that as well. First of all, tomorrow, watching the south, not only are we watching some showers, but notice this on the back edge of this system, we're looking at icy conditions. Louisiana into Mississippi, Thursday into Friday, watching for ice. Some of you just to the north of that, we're talking about snow, and we're also finding a system moving through the Midwest. Now Friday, quiet here in the Northeast, but this is just kind of a chance to regroup because we're going to find these two systems combining together, making their entrance right on back into the Northeast with more snow and more of a wintry mix. Now, some of you say across New York State, you may see more with this system on Saturday than what you've been seeing with this current system. So we've got more on the horizon, more too pushing in across the Midwest. And as we go into Sunday, we'll start to see more snow showing up here across the northern tier of the country. And that means areas like Bismarck and Fargo and Minneapolis toward the Chicago area, more snow. Add to that, very cold air is going to start to seep in behind this system. Now this system slides eastward on Monday, more snow coming into the midsection of the country, showers to the south, and of course, guess where it's all headed? Right on back into the mid-Atlantic and the Northeast with more snow pushing into this area. So we've got some very rough days ahead of us. You'll get a couple of breaks, but those are just your days, I guess, for bread and milk and your gas runs because you'll see more snow coming in. Now, temperature-wise, we know it is cold out there now. In fact, it's brutally cold in some cases. Really be aware that tonight the wind chill values in much of the plains and the Midwest are going to be well below zero. So really rough weather conditions, a good night to stay inside. We're going to warm it up a bit as we go into Friday and also into Saturday. But then guess what? As we go into Sunday, which by the way, Super Bowl Sunday, we start to see some of that cold air seeping down out of Canada. Of course, where is it headed? Southward and ultimately eastward. This will be taking over across the country, and we've got another week of very, very cold air. Ouch. Carl? All
right, to get up to date on the latest breaking weather, just text TWC Breaking to 44636 for text alerts.
This This is your captain speaking. We are 14th in line for takeoff.
Beep, 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 beep.
I gotta get to Cleveland.
I hate traffic.
Amtrak. Enjoy the journey.
Enjoy the journey on Amtrak, now serving 500 destinations coast to coast. Book today at Amtrak.com.
In America, there's an energy you can feel. Energy created by American workers and